My model is, what are you doing? And are you driving the best value for what you're doing? And what more could you be doing? Not to make more money, although that's always the option and what we're striving for, but to make sure you're making the most amount of revenue within a given market, segment, country, region.
Okay, welcome to You're the Boss podcast show. And today I am talking to Joe Zahaitis. He's a 30-year payments industry veteran, consultant, and educator who helps businesses finally understand and take control of the way money moves through their companies. It's very important. He's a founder of Zahaitis Consulting and the Payment Process, where he teaches merchants, operators, and executives how to save money on their digital payment model. So we're looking at how you take money in for your business today. So Joe, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on the show. Appreciate being here. Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome. Okay, so just tell me a little bit more about what it is that you do and why we're talking about payments today and why it is so important that people really give a good deal of thought as to how they set up payments for their business.
When I started in the payments industry, as you mentioned, thank you very much for that, by the way, quite a while ago, we had a lot of things that people used. You had cash, you had check, and then you had this thing called credit cards. And it was a digital payment model, and it was relatively new. I remember a day back when we had four different interchange types. And for those of you who don't know in the listening audience, there's about 260-ish per major card brand. So we've come a long way, and there's a lot of granularity to that. But when we started out, there were a lot of different ways to take payments. Nowadays, if you look at most businesses, digital, online, small and large, a huge portion of their revenue is derived from digital type credit card payments. So you almost can't be in business nowadays without accepting some form of digital or credit card type, model. Around the globe, other countries, you have more than just what in the United States is the four major card brands. And I've
Mm,
worked for a number of international companies to know the nature of that and how you accept those payments, but it still doesn't change the basic fact that this, for most businesses, is anywhere from 80 to 95% of their rev stream is derived from this model. That presents both an opportunity, certainly an ease of acceptance, but also a problem in that now you're beholden to the nature of this model. And without it, you're not in business.
yeah.
So, from a consultancy perspective, what I do is I go into companies and it's both cost containment, but also revenue generation. What tools are you using? I don't care who you process with. My goal is not to sell you on a payment processing model. Hey, come with me. That's not my model. My model is, what are you doing? And are you driving the best value for what you're doing? And what more could you be doing? Not to make more money, although that's always the option and what we're striving for, but to make sure you're making the most amount of revenue within a given market, segment, country, region.
I think that's one of the things I think we talked about earlier when we first met before as we were arranging this show. Um, I think you talked about knowing which market you're going into is really important as well because different markets have different payment processes and they don't necessarily, some people don't necessarily spend using the traditional credit cards anymore. They have other ways of paying as well. So talk to me a little bit about that.
The simplest one and the one I love to use, I worked for a number of years for an international company based out of Hoofddorp, which is just outside Amsterdam. And if you look at the Netherlands as a model, if you're not taking the ideal card in the Netherlands, you are effectively missing out on 90% of your purchasing power as a merchant. Because this was a great thing. I didn't know what I didn't know about international payment processing when I got into
Mm,
the international world. Oh, it's the four major card brands. That's it. Visa,
yeah.
MasterCard, American Express, and Discover. That's it. Everybody, you get outside of the US and you find out that, first of all, Europeans fundamentally don't buy on credit. And
Okay.
it's a European model. I will
Right.
save money. When I have enough money, I will purchase this, which is exactly the other side of the coin relative to
Yeah.
US and a lot of other countries. I will
Yeah.
buy on credit and then pay off the credit like a loan.
Mm,
So ideal, just and again in the Netherlands, is
uh,
fundamentally a debit model.
right.
It's what everybody uses.
Yeah.
So if you have a buyer base within
Mm,
this region, just take that
mm,
as an argument.
mm.
There are other European models. Germany has their own, and
Yeah.
France has their own, and Russia has their own. But if you look at ideal, if you didn't know that, you would come and say, "Okay, I wanna sell this product, this thing, this digital asset
Yeah.
internationally, and we're gonna take credit cards for it." You'll get some sales
Mm,
in the Netherlands,
mm,
but if you're not taking Ideal, you won't
mm.
get as many as you could have gotten because these people are looking going, "I don't wanna buy that on credit, that's not how my model works. I just
Yeah.
won't. I'll go somewhere else that does take
Yeah.
Ideal."
And that's the
And
thing
that's
is
what happened.
they would go somewhere else. This happened to me, for example, when I was using a certain paying on subscription for a certain app, and they didn't take debit cards. They only took credit cards. And I wanted to pay through my business, and my business card is a debit card. It's not a credit card, right? Because in Singapore, they don't give credit cards for businesses. They just give debit cards. So I couldn't pay for this app on my business card. I had to use my personal card.
Yep.
Then I had to sort of then claim that back off the business, which was a pain every time. So eventually it's like, why am I doing this? I don't want to do this. And let me find something that is just as good, but will take my money right? The way I want to pay. So yeah, you will lose eventually, even if they pay to start off with, eventually you're going to lose them because they just don't want to pay that way. You've got to pay the way they
Localization
want
of
to pay.
currency, that's an easy one. You wanna pay and I'm just, you wanna pay in yen versus paying in dollars versus
Yeah.
paying in GBP. So
Yeah.
localization, "Oh, this is $50." Okay, in my mind, what does that mean? Is that 20,000 yen? Is that 10,000? I mean, what
Yeah.
you have to do the digital currency conversion on your own. As the merchant, you should really be providing that to your clients so they can look at it in their own mind, go, "Oh, I know what this is, and that has value."
Yeah.
Vis-a-vis it if you don't do the conversion right,
Right.
US to Mexico, if I do it at 10 to 1 versus 20 to 1, suddenly
Mm,
it's like, "Whoa, this is more expensive than I expected." Well, I did the conversion wrong. If I'd have done it right, I'd been, "Oh, that's worth it." So you're absolutely correct.
yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. So you got to know where you're selling to, how people spend in that market, and provide the payments that they will use in that. Right.
And it's fun that we're having this because given where you're geographically located and given where I'm geographically located,
Yeah.
the nature of this international makes a much bigger deal.
Yeah.
We're talking cross border, and that's a big deal
Yeah.
for a lot of clients.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I had one app which I was surprised actually. They in the US and Canada, this same app takes digital payments, and in Singapore it doesn't. You have to actually transfer to the bank account manually to transfer. So those kind of things. It's in this day and age you would think that people, businesses were set up to receive digital currency, but it's surprising that some of them still are so far
I
behind.
can't again, from a non-disclosure perspective, some clients that I do work with, you would be surprised on a large client basis how many of them myopically believe they know what they're doing, and then when you get in as a consultant, you talk to them, they're like, you watch the eyes open up and the doors open, go, "Wait, we" again, to the point, you didn't know what you didn't know. That's again, not it as a sales pitch here, but that's what I bring to the table, and that's the part that as a merchant, as a business in the marketplace, you have to look at and bring in the experts that can help you with what you need to do because not knowing, it's not helping solve the problem. It's like
Um,
localizing the language. I
right.
wanna sell in Japan, and everything is in English. It's not gonna do so well. Just might wanna think about that one again.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so you want to make money the best you can in whatever. But to take down the barriers
Mhm.
basically to people paying you. If they want to pay you, it's
Yes.
frustrating if you want the service and you can't pay for it because it's just set up wrong for the way you shop, right? So that's important. So tell me, for a small business that is wanting to sell internationally, so we're talking maybe here like coaches, offers, or whatever, and they want to sell internationally to their audience, what kind of things should they be thinking about when choosing a payment processing software or
I would even back
service?
it up one step. Payment processing then falls into that. But what I would look at, which is what I tell not only clients but my own team when we're doing this, is where do you want to sell? If you're looking internationally, I have a large. I believe the context of what I sell, and I'm not talking about me. I'm just talking philosophically.
Yeah.
Has a large audience in Europe. Has a large audience in Asia, has a large audience. Where is a segment you want to go after? And then start to need to research the nature of that segment. You can't sell, I don't think, unless you got a good chunk of money. There's 150 different what I call APMs, alternate payment methodologies. There's
Mm.
a few more than 150, but for argument's sake, there's 150. I want to take them all. It's not that easy because most of them individually you have to sign up with those countries, entities, processors, platforms, and things like that. So what you need to do is you need to narrow your focus. It would be my take, especially if you're just getting into it in a small business. I want to sell in Great Britain.
Mm.
English language, easy to do. GBP is pretty cool. I mean, pretty simple. I don't have to worry about a language barrier to go with on
Mm.
the website to start with.
Mm.
It's, roughly 2 to 1 on the exchange rate. So I can make that work and look good and at
Mm.
least know what the model is going to look like.
Mm.
Got it. How am I going to accept GBP? So now there now you've at least narrowed your focus so that you're not trying again to be all things to all people. Worst thing you can do in my mind is try and be all things to all people. The more, and they say it even in, whether it be business and podcasts and websites, the more you
Right.
try and be everything to everything, the
Yeah.
more you're nothing to no one. I mean,
Yes.
you have to
Yeah.
narrow your niche.
It's the same in marketing. It's exactly the same thing. Your message isn't going to translate if you're saying it to everybody. You have to
Trying to,
narrow it
right.
down to
Agreed.
a small niche. Yeah. So then another thing is like I think it's very common, especially in my industry, to see people selling their products and services in US dollars. So even in Asia, we're used to paying in US dollars for subscription fees and all that kind of stuff because most of them are in the US, right? Um, what is there a way around that, or how does that affect people when they're paying if they're paying in a foreign currency instead of their own?
Then it starts to get into from a business, not even a payments perspective, from a business perspective, and the complexities of the setup. If you listen, I typically the reason I don't use Asia is because Asia's got a bunch of its own unique, I don't call them oddities, but constraints in terms of how you have to structure. And the reason I use Great Britain and or Europe is it's something that most people can then understand. But so
Right.
that's why I use it. Let's say you want to set up in not in Asia, but you want to set up in Europe. Okay, fine. You're going to take Euro and GBP. Fine, that's easy enough. You really need to have to do it right and to save the right amount of money and what's called an entity on the ground. You need to have a Great British setup structured entity that
Right.
has, like in the US, we have an EIN number, which is our employer identification number for paying taxes. You need to have that same VAT
Business.
tax number set up in Britain. And you have
Yeah.
to work with a tax attorney. And I am not a tax attorney, so there's my disclaimer. But you need to set these things up because if you're going to accept in local currency, which you should always try and be doing,
Mm.
you can't say I'm going to take GBP and it's going to come right to the US. Doesn't work that way. You have to
Mm.
convert it as it's coming called cross border.
Mm.
That's expensive because you're
Okay.
paying on a transaction or transaction basis to then accept that. Now, if that's the only model you have, because
Right.
you're a small business, there are
Yeah.
ways to structure that so you can do that.
Uh-huh.
But it's better if you can structure this in such a way that you're not transaction over transaction trying to do this and you have to set up your infrastructure of your company starts looking different when you start
Right.
going international. Even if you're talking Singapore, you really need a Singapore entity even if you're accepting dollars. Now, if you're accepting dollars with a US entity and you're bringing the money back to the US, great. But now you got to get it from the US into Singapore. And
Yeah.
now you're doing conversion going back the other way. So,
Mm.
my advice to most smaller businesses is look at the markets you're going after. And that, again, is this niche product. I want to be in all column trees. Start setting up entities and everyone. It costs. And as a
Wow.
small business, that's going to take a while.
That's impossible.
I've worked with a number of companies that have set up, they'll have 5 or 10.
All right.
Just the management of that alone takes a certain amount of energy from a company, and it's not
Nightmare.
horribly
Yeah.
expensive, but it's not cheap.
Yeah.
And in this environment, if we're talking about a smaller business, your best bet, take USD, USD setup organization, even though you're accepting overseas. But I would
Mm.
still localize language and I still would localize currency to at least let them see it. This is your cost conversion. You're
Right.
paying me in USD, but this is what that means to you as someone. And Singapore
Singapore dollar.
is it the Singapore dollar?
Yeah.
Okay. I was sitting here racking my brain as we're talking, going, crap, I can't remember that one. So yeah, the Singapore dollar.
Yeah. So, okay. So that's because I think as well of like, it used to be easier when digital payments first came in that there wasn't any talk about paying taxes on payments or taking tax on payments so much. But now they're realizing now that that's a loophole really that they
Well,
need to.
everybody wants their piece. Every government, every entity, every organization wants their piece. And what has crept into that is you need to make sure that you're satisfying the nature of not only where you're located, but where you're selling, because those
Mm.
become important pieces. I think you want to talk about cutting edge and bleeding edge and down the road, and I'll admit to knowing and learning still,
Uh-huh.
bits of it, is the nature of a crypto and or true
Mm.
digital asset based, because
Mm.
in theory,
Mm.
that goes around all of the banking infrastructure. I can send you a fractional piece of a Bitcoin. That crosses border and has value within the context of it. And I don't like to use Bitcoin, but the reason I bring it up is depends on, pick which one you want. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You're going around the banking infrastructure. It would be my belief, A, it works. B, you're not paying taxes. But C, suddenly becomes much more risky for a lot of things. Nothing against crypto in terms of crypto and, Doge and all of those other,
Mm. Mm.
but it just is.
Mm.
We're talking about a fiat currency in the States or in Singapore where it's backed by a US and or other country entity. There's a certain stability to that. Now we're talking about going to something where someone somewhere else has decided what this has its value, and you and I are just going to exchange it. Here, I'm going to give you
Uh-huh.
Furbies is what I'm going to give you as a payment model. Well, if a Furby is not worth as much tomorrow, we got a problem.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay. And then talk to me about certain payment processing software, I suppose, that you can use that. I mean, I've heard stories of people that have taken payments, right? They've billed people, they get payments, and then suddenly their business takes off. And they're starting to get a lot more money coming in on a more frequent basis than before.
I
And
could
then they get
Anybody
shut
who's
down.
listening will know them. I could name them, and it's not because I'm afraid legally of getting in trouble, but if you look at some of the bigger ones that start with S and it looks like a line, or it starts with S and it looks
Mhm.
like a box. Okay, now you know
Mhm.
the two ones we're talking about. If you look at the nature of some of the big dogs that are out there, and again, and this is no disrespect to Square, is the one I'll use as the example. If you're going to a craft fair, if you're selling 4 pieces of product on a weekly basis on them because you're attending a craft fair, that's fine. And in that model, you fit the generally how Square was set up. It was set up for tiny businesses that don't really care what the cost structure is, because the cost per transaction in a Stripe and a Square model is rather expensive. But you
Mm.
don't care. You
Mm.
know what your cost structure is. You know
Mm.
you're at least going to be able to take a digital payment. You know the
Mm.
setup was super, super easy. You
Mm.
know you're able to get it integrated, and it doesn't matter. But to your point, the minute that volume starts taking off, you start getting on someone's radar where they look and they say, not only are you taking payments, what are you taking payments for?
Mm.
And I'm not going to say I've seen it span the gamut of one coach doesn't get touched at all and another person selling a physical product suddenly does. It's like, okay, what do they like and not like? It's not like it's an algorithm. It's people behind it. You don't know. But the minute you start, if you sole source your solution, if you're going with one provider, it will
Mm.
always be there. I have
Mm.
seen a lot of clients that, to your point, when they start taking off, suddenly find out all of their money has been held, their account has been shut down. They have no way of taking payments now because that was what they were relying on. And now they're looking and going, I have no backup plan. I have no what I'm doing. Now, in the holding of the money part, I will say that having been in the payments industry for a long time, legally, they really can't hold it for any longer than the potential chargebacks of people who come back and say, hey, I didn't make that transaction. This was a lie. I want my money back. So
Right.
once that 6 months passes,
Oh, that's 6
you
months,
really,
is it? Well,
6 months,
okay.
it's a 6 month window. I do a
Wow.
transaction online. This is my challenge with credit cards in general in life.
Yeah.
Once I do a transaction online, I have 6 months to contest it. So
Okay.
now I do work with a coach. This is why I would recommend other payment models we can talk about on another show, but I'd recommend other payment models for coaches and some other smaller businesses out there because I use you for a service. I pay with my credit card. I get 5 months down the road and then I call the credit card company and say, that didn't go the way I wanted to. They didn't give me what I wanted. I don't like the service. Then I want it back. Guess what? That chargeback will probably stick. Now you're out the money and you gave the service and they fully got use of it. All right, prove that they got what they were supposed to get. It's going to be on you. And that's where the credit card companies are. And I think from an industry perspective, we're starting to lean back on the consumer to say, you can't do that. But right
Yeah.
now, the way the rules are structured, yeah, they can. And they do.
Okay.
So it's not
Yeah,
just the stripes and the squares. It's also the
yeah,
consumer sometimes.
yeah. I know of actually one coach, I'm thinking about this now, and I know of one coach, she obviously must have got burnt with this, and she refuses to take payment through those particular payment processing. You have to pay
Yep.
her a different way. She will not
Yep.
accept payment because I think she's had that many chargebacks.
I'm looking at it even from my own perspective in the context of my consultancy. You can pay me with digital
Mm,
assets, crypto
mm,
and or stablecoin. You can pay
right.
me via a direct ACH. You can pay me via a wire transfer for my consulting business.
Yeah.
I have a few others that evaluating even personally, but
Mm,
fundamentally, again, what I do for a living is a small quantity, high ticket environment. You're
mm,
paying
mm,
me a
mm,
chunk of money to help consult with your business. Credit card companies fundamentally don't like that to start with because it's a higher ticket item and I don't have
mm,
a lot of them.
mm,
If you look at, well, Joe, you should just take credit cards. That's the industry you're in. That's a true statement. If I'm selling $5 bracelets globally and I take a hit on a half a dozen charges, it doesn't affect my revenue model. I sell consulting services at a stiff pace and I'm doing a couple 500,000. I mean, pick your
mm,
number. I'm not
mm.
selling hundreds of thousands of these products. I'm selling hundreds or thousands of these products totally. I take a hit on one or two or a handful of those. That's affecting a revenue model. Maybe the credit card isn't the best way to go.
Right. That's very interesting because we always think just automatically it's credit card, right? It's the easiest way, but there are risks involved.
We can get into a philosophical discussion about the nature of credit cards if you would like. I don't want to take your show down a dark rabbit hole, but we have become, it's almost too easy. If you look at the cash model, I pay you $100. You turn around and you pay rent for $100. Your landlord turns around and pays the electric company $100. In the context of that exchange of money, that $100 that started from me to you ends up in the fourth and fifth level still is $100 because it's
Mm,
cash.
mm.
If you take a credit card, I pay you $100. You go to pay your rent, only 93.
Yeah.
They go to then take that and pay the electric company 87. Everyone has taken their little hit along the way. That currency does not have the same value, but
Yeah.
because of the ease of use, we have been lulled into that's just the way it is.
Mm,
There are some businesses that don't take cash at all, no type of
yeah.
cash
I've noticed
facility at
that.
all. I think that's a travesty in life because that is the one area wherein what you get is what you then have. It
But
doesn't
I
change.
thought, I mean, I don't know if it's the same all the way all around the world, but I'm pretty sure it was the case in the UK. I'm not sure if it is now, but I thought it was illegal not to accept cash because it says it's legal tender, right?
True. You're in a digital online environment.
Yeah. Well, no, you can't
How
pay
are you
cash
going to
in that
physically?
sense, right? Yeah.
There
Yeah.
are, again, I won't call them loopholes because if you look,
Yeah.
there's a local hot dog joint in the area, rather well known in the States. I won't mention the name, but if you've been here, you would know them. And they don't take cash at the drive up. They only take credit or debit cards at the drive up. And the reason is for the safety and security of the kids who are outside actually physically accepting cash. You can pay cash for your hot dog. You just have to go inside where they actually have a cash register. So what happens is that, but there are those businesses, and that is the argument, and that is some of the pushback even that consumers are, some just to be jerks about it, but at the end of the day, you're absolutely correct. It is a legal form of payment and you have to accept it in some way, shape, or form. Some businesses are making it so difficult to accept cash because they
I
just
know
don't want.
during the pandemic, it was like,
Right. I don't
yeah.
want cash handling. I don't want to have to go to the bank. I don't want to have to put it in the bag. There's the shrink that comes from the clerks, and I don't want to deal with that. Credit card's just easier. That's what we're going to go with. Is it?
Well,
We
we have like in Singapore, we have a system of payment. I don't know if this is taking off in other countries as well, where you register with your mobile phone number, and that mobile phone number is attached to your bank account. You choose which bank account you want that attached to, and you can then give people your phone number and say, "Pay me," and they will pay you through using that phone number. It's all connected, and you get immediate payment. It's straight away, immediate into your bank account.
You want to have a fun
So,
conversation about that right now? We
okay,
have something very similar to that in the States.
right.
And I will mention it by name, although others would say that there's a number of different competing. Zelle.
Yeah.
Zelle is a
Mm.
payment model that you can use. I have my
Okay.
phone number attached to my bank account. I can give you I can actually push money to you via Zelle, or I can
Mm.
request money from you, and then you just
Mm.
click on the button, you pay me.
Yeah.
So Zelle works as a payment model. And the number of, I love reading the articles, fighting up and down the street, shouldn't be using it. It's not secure enough. It's this, it's that. If you look behind the model of everyone fighting the nature of your payment model, Zelle, which is
Yeah.
basically a person to person cash model with a bank in the middle,
Yeah.
it's all of the major card brands that are fighting the fact that
Yeah.
people would like to do this.
Yeah. Because it's so easy to do. And it's also
They
for
don't want to be
is
cut out of the
the
transaction model. They want
yeah,
you using credit cards.
yeah.
So no,
Does
they have to fight against it. I get it.
okay, okay. Does Zelle also work for businesses as well? Can businesses get paid that way?
Here's the again, not a lawyer. Here's
Mm.
the non-legal response. Yeah, sure, it works. It is, you want to talk, it's kludgier. It's not as clean and smooth. It works and it can be done, and it's a P2P model. Doing it, here's where I think you'd run into a problem. I want to accept thousands of Zelle transactions a day for the
Mm.
digital bracelet that I'm selling
Mm.
online,
Mm-mm.
probably is going to have the bank looking into you, because that wasn't its intention. In the context of what I do, you want to
Yeah.
pay me a couple $1,000s via Zelle. That's an easy way to do that.
Okay.
Easier would be a wire transfer. Yeah, but
Okay.
Joe, a wire transfer costs. Yeah, but it's also a secure payment that you know is going out, I know is coming in, and I'll even pay for the wire from your
Uh-huh.
bank, the cost of
Uh-huh.
it, because that's a known element. Credit
Okay.
card,
Okay.
six
Because we
months out,
have
I got to
like
charge
the,
back.
the one that we have in Singapore, you can register it by phone number, but if you're a business, you can also register it by your business identity
Then
number.
decide on it, right?
Yeah. So then
And you
you
can
can.
technically do that in a Zelle model in the States, but it sounds like
Mm.
Singapore is moving more towards this digital cash model where it's true cash and it's
Mm.
truly
Mm.
digital. I
Mm.
think that to me that's a great forward thinking way of doing this, because, and you find this outside of the United States, Europe, Asia, a lot of the other regions, call them credit card regions, a lot of the other areas around the world are already leapfrogged over the nature of credit card to say, look, we want to take payments. We want to move digital assets around and currencies around. We don't want to be beholden to this thing. Even if it's Giro Pay in Germany or Ideal in the Netherlands, I mean, all of the different APMs all have their little piece that they take. How do we facilitate the movement of money, but not as physical cash?
Mm.
I mean, even physical cash from Germany to France, it's easier because they're right next to each other. It's easier because they do it all the time, but it's not as easy as taking that in your world, in a digital world, and just flipping it straight to digital.
Right. Okay. Okay. So do you think that's the way things would move in the future? I mean, would we all
Talk
still be
about
paying with
crystal
credit
ball.
cards?
I would love to see. Okay, and we haven't talked about this in the context of your show, but I'm also a gamer. I know I don't look like I should be a gamer. I'm not 12, but I'm a huge online video type gamer, and there were a couple games out there that had, as a part of the payment within the context of the game, a true
Mm.
P2P model. You go
Okay.
into a bar, you accept a job for doing something, and physically, right there, standing in front of you, we have two little digital like fobs, and you pass currency directly to me, to
Mm.
my fob. I've now accepted payment right there. It's like physically getting cash, but it's digital, and it's a true P2P environment. The challenge with that becomes, how do you manage it? How do you securitize everything? But if I were to say where this is going, and Singapore sounds like it's getting closer, is
Yeah.
this P2P type effectively currency
Mm.
model where turn around and say, you know what, give me your phone number. There you go. There's
Yeah.
$100. Boom, we're done.
Yeah.
And it's a P2P environment that I think, if you look at it, it's a
Mm.
digital version of me handing you a
Yeah.
$100 bill. It's the same
Yeah.
thing,
And it's
but we're just
instant,
doing it
right?
digitally.
It's instant. The only thing is in Singapore is it can only be done in Singapore. So
Understood.
it's between, yeah,
Correct.
you can't do cross borders at the moment with anything like that. But
Well, you have
yeah,
currency conversion and all sorts of things the minute you start doing that. So I totally
yeah,
understand it. I mean, even in the States, Zelle, to the best of my knowledge, Zelle only works in the US, and you have to
yeah,
have Zelle. I have to have Zelle. It's connected to your bank
yeah,
account, connected your phone number, connected to your bank account. And now I
yes,
send you money, poof, magically it shows up.
yeah.
I can't do
This
that
is
with
the
you
way it
being in
works.
Singapore. It won't work.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, maybe one day.
You would think that from a banking infrastructure perspective, they would be trying to put more of this together. The challenge is, to be honest, Again, and I've worked for some rather large companies with rather large clients. You look
Mm,
at the nature of banking infrastructure, lines of credit, building loans, and everything else that's a part of being a part of the commerce world
mm,
for a lot of the major players and even their clients. The nature of the credit card processing is a truncation point. It's not that they don't care, they do care because it's a rev model, but there are so many other bigger things that they're looking at this, and that's from a perspective of what my consultancy is. You're leaving money on the table, a lot of it. But because it takes a little bit of work to do it, you'll just ignore it. But instead, if you didn't, that could be a big chunk of what you're spending.
oh, okay. All right.
Small companies,
Well,
same thing. I don't want to leave small companies out of this. It's a big part. I fight against the nature of Square and Stripe on a daily basis, not because they're bad companies, but if you look at the nature, to your point, the minute you start making some volume, whoops, I'm paying a
yeah,
lot.
you need to have a plan B for that kind of thing, right? Just in case, because that's a nightmare. Because you're saying it's not even just that they shut you down and you can't transact, but you also can't get the money that you've already earned because that's locked in as well.
Well, and
So
just
I've
again,
heard
nothing against them
stories.
without even talking about pricing, but the
Yeah,
nature of the model is not structured for someone that's doing volume.
right.
They would contend they're building and they're getting there, but still the model is more expensive than if you go with, to your point, the
Yeah.
plan B and go outside of.
And then the other flip side of that as well, I noticed with mine was I was given like they take the money, right? And it doesn't go to your bank account until maybe 7 days later. Then it gets transferred to your bank account. And so that's what used to happen when I very first signed up. And then when they looked at the history of my transactions, they then put it down to 3 days. So it's kind of, okay, you're not a risk. People aren't charging back. We're going to let you have your money earlier, right? So there's that as well.
It's a double-edged sword because if you look
Yeah.
at the nature of the fact that they're holding your money for 7 days, what are they doing it with for 7 days?
Yeah.
There's a thing in the banking environment called overnight investment, and the cash I
Yeah.
have on hand as a bank, I can invest and make a little bit of interest on. Well,
Yeah.
I
Money
have to hold
market.
yours for 7 days. You're a risk. Are you really? I just want to make money, and they do this with everybody on the platform. They're making
Yeah.
7 days worth of interest off of the fact that I'm sorry, this is how the model is set up. But is it? Oh, now we've randomly, for some bizarre reason, decided you're not a risk because
Mm,
it fits an algorithm. No, it's because if we don't start giving it to you sooner, you will start looking at alternate models and we
okay.
won't have the business anymore.
Right. Nice. Okay.
Many clients are next day funding, just so you know. So in the nature of
Mm,
it's a challenge from a small business perspective is you're looking at a 7 day hold or a 3 day hold as a natural normal occurrence. In the worlds I come from, I'm not saying it's small
right.
businesses, there may be a day or two.
Yeah.
If you're not getting it by day 48 hours later, there's your cash flow. I mean, I had some rather large clients that if they weren't getting their deposit of all of their
Mm,
credit card receipts next day, because
mm,
they wanted that overnight investment. Even
okay.
before they sent it out to their vendors, it's like, "Look, I want the cash in hand because my
Yeah.
banking and treasury infrastructure says we want that investment from our bank.
Right.
So you, Mr. Payment Processor, have to get it to us really damn fast."
So there's lots of things to consider, lots of things to do when taking money for your business. I would say as much as you can do, just try and take it as a digital cash if you can, or wire transfer, right? If you
Consider
can.
the options of what you're selling and the value that you're bringing to the table and the ways in which you not just can accept payments,
Mm,
but should accept payments.
mm,
Sometimes
okay.
it looks a little more difficult because I'm trying, to your point, accept some type of a digital model. I want to sell my services within the context of Singapore, but I'm just going to take credit cards because it's easy and it's one thing. I would suggest looking at alternate models as well to make sure that not only are you meeting the customer's needs, but in your own way, you've got a plan B.
Mm, mm, yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, so talking to you has really opened my eyes up to that. So thank
Sorry.
you so much. Yeah,
It,
thank
it
you so
can
much.
be it can be managed, and this is from a listener perspective in your world. I would say it's not like, hey, come pay me $1 billion and I'll manage it for you. You can. A
Mm,
lot of people can do this on their own, but you
mm,
have to look at when this is the way I say to all of my clients. Do you really evaluate your lawyer, your
Mm,
doctor, and your
mm,
accountant
yeah,
before you engage with them to do something? Of course you do. You vet them out. You make sure you're getting the best value, the best dollar for what you're doing. Okay, when 90% of your rev stream is coming from a particular model, but you're
mm,
choosing the simplest, the easiest, and the fastest way to do it, I gotta tell you, you're relying on a thread for probably one of the most important parts, and you're not giving it enough
the
thought.
business. Yeah. Okay. So thank you so much for giving that perspective. And that's food for thought for, I think, everybody listening. So, Joe, where can people find you if they want to find out more?
You can I own my own domain, Zahaitis.com. My last name Zahaitis.com. And I'm sure you'll put it in a link in
I
the
will. Yeah.
description as well. Zahaitis.com. There's a way of engaging with me, contacting, reach out. I love having conversations with people, even if it's just a quick dialogue before any engagement. It's what I
Right.
do for a living. It's what I love doing. I've been doing it obviously for 30 years. It's a lot of fun. And if you want to talk about gaming, I'll get you hooked up with all of those websites and all the properties I own in that world too.
Okay. So, Joe, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate being here. Appreciate it a lot.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you for listening to the show today. And if you've liked what you've heard, then do subscribe to the channel wherever you see it, wherever you're watching it. And if you're on YouTube, ring the bell so that you can get notified when we upload another episode so you don't miss the episodes as they come up.